habit. Hated guys who gave you the finger and screamed, "Spin on it!" Saliva flying out of their filthy nicotine-stained mouths. He felt the bump, about the same force as hitting a badger or a fox on a dark night, except it came from behind, pushing him forward. It was just as well the spectacles guy had performed his little paso doble and got out of the way, or he would have been pancaked. He looked in the rear-view mirror. A blue Honda Civic, the driver climbing out. Big guy, slabs of weightlifter muscle, gym fit rather than survival fit. He wouldn't have been able to last 3 months in the jungle or the desert the way that Ray could have done. He wouldn't have lasted a day. He was wearing driving gloves, ugly black leather ones with knuckle holes. He had a dog in the back of the car, a beefy Rottweiler, exactly the dog you would have guessed a guy like that would have. The guy was a walking cliché. The dog was having a seizure in the back, spraying saliva all over the window, its claws scrabbling on the glass. The dog didn't worry him too much. He knew how to kill dogs. Ray got out of the car and walked round to the back bumper to inspect the damage. The Honda driver started yelling at him. "You stupid fucking twat! What did you think you were doing?" English. Ray tried to think of something to say that would be non-confrontational, that would calm the guy down. You could see he was a pressure cooker waiting to blow, wanting to blow, bouncing on his feet like an out-of-condition heavyweight. Ray adopted a neutral stance, a neutral expression, but then he heard the crowd give a little collective "ah" of horror, and he registered the baseball bat that had suddenly appeared in the guy's hand out of nowhere, and thought, "Shit." That was the last thought he had for several seconds. When he was able to think again, he was sprawled on the street, holding the side of his head where the guy had cracked him. He heard the sound of broken glass. The bastard was putting in every window in his car now. He tried, unsuccessfully, to struggle to his feet, but managed only to get to a kneeling position, as if he was at prayer. And now the guy was advancing with the bat lifted, feeling the heft of it in his hand, ready to swing for a home run on his skull. Ray put an arm up to defend himself, made himself even more dizzy by doing that, and, sinking back onto the cobbles, thought, "Jesus, is this it?" He'd given up. He'd actually given up, something he'd never done before, when someone stepped out of the crowd wielding something square and black that he threw at the Honda guy, clipping him on the shoulder and sending him reeling. He blacked out again for a few seconds, and when he came to, there were a couple of policewomen hunkered down beside him, one of them saying, "Just take it easy, sir," the other one on her radio calling for an ambulance. It was the first time in his life that he'd been glad to see the police. Chapter 2. Martin had never done anything like that in his life before. He didn't even kill flies in the house. Instead, he patiently stalked them, trapping them with a glass and a plate before letting them free. The meek shall inherit the earth. He was 50 and had never knowingly committed an act of violence against another living creature, although sometimes he thought that might be more to do with cowardice than pacifism. He had stood in the queue waiting for someone else to intervene in the scene unfolding before them, but the crowd were in audience mode, like promenaders at a particularly brutal piece of theatre, and they had no intention of spoiling the entertainment. Even Martin had wondered at first if it was just another show, a faux impromptu piece intended either to shock or to reveal our immunity to being shocked because we lived in a global media community where we had become passive voyeurs of violence and so on. That was the line of thought running through the detached intellectual part of his brain. His primitive brain, on the other hand, was thinking, "Oh, fuck, this is horrible, really horrible. Please make the bad man go away." He wasn't surprised to hear his father's voice in his head. "Pull yourself together, Martin." His father had been dead for many years, but Martin often still heard the bellow and yell of his parade ground tones. When the Honda driver finished breaking the windows of the silver Peugeot and walked towards the driver, brandishing his weapon and preparing himself for a final victory blow, Martin realized that the man on the ground was probably